Government of India in order to take additional charge as chairman and managing director of IDPL, that is the Indian Drugs and Pharmaceuticals Limited. Apart from this, his greatest honor is being awarded by the Honorable Prime Minister of India for his excellence and outstanding performance and contribution to public sector management in his individual capacity. His more achievements, he has been a member of the National Chemical Committee in FICCI, CII, and an active member of the CII Council on Public Sector Enterprises. He was also on the board for Crop Care Federation of India and Standing Conference on Public Sector Enterprises, that is SCOPE. Apart from these experiences, Mr. Hari Kumar is currently the Vice Chairman of Center for Management Development, Trivandrum, Vice President of the Kochi Chamber of Commerce, Management Committee member of Kerala Management Association, and a board member of Alkali Manufacturers Association. Sir, we are very happy and honored to have you among with us today. We look forward to listen to your knowledge, experience, and your very kind words. Thank you, sir. Over to you.
Thank you, Arpit, and thank you, Rekha. Hope I am audible, right?
Yes, sir.
I'm audible?
Yes, sir.
Fine. I'm extremely delighted to have got an opportunity to speak before the management students of NIT Calicut and the faculty, and thank the organizers for giving me a platform to talk about how the world of business is changing. You all as management students must be knowing that the business and the business atmosphere is changing and changing very fast. And unless you are nimble-footed and adapt to the changing circumstances, it's very difficult to survive. Forget about even grow. See, I'm basically talking about disruption which happened as part of strategy. That is strategic disruption. I'm not talking about the disruption which was imposed on us, which happened due to COVID. That probably was the biggest disruptor which anybody has ever seen. And that has virtually rewritten the word disruption because it has disrupted totally. I'm here to share some of my thoughts and observations of what I am seeing around me. What is going to be the future across various sectors. And there is nothing new in what I'm going to talk about because basically you all must have seen in different contexts. But the only thing is I'm trying to put them in a perspective so that you understand it better. And when I talk about it, see, basically, I understand that you all are all management students and all must be basically familiar with the basic principles of management. Basic principles of management, you all know: planning, organizing, staffing, coordinating, directing, controlling, all this. See, basically start from the word planning. See, when we talk about planning, first thing you have to understand is what exactly do we mean by planning? Planning is something which we are not doing for today. Planning is something which we are doing for tomorrow. When I talk about planning today, we talk about planning, say, 5 years down the line. That is, we talk about planning maybe 2025 or even 2030. And when we plan, we also have to keep in mind certain things like what are going to be the customer needs then, what is going to be the delivery system, what is going to be the regulatory environment then, what are going to be the competitive forces, so on and so forth. You will have to look at many things when you plan. So unless you factor these things in, it becomes very difficult for you to plan, and your planning otherwise need not succeed. It will just remain in a piece of paper. So when we talk about planning, let us just look behind for some time. What was the world 10 years back? See, probably all of you must have been in school. So go back to your school days. It must have changed considerably since then. But all of us adapted to the changing world. See, it is said that in the last 50 years, the world changed more than the change which happened in the previous 200 years. And when we are talking about last 10 years, probably changed the world more than previous 50 years change, whatever change was brought in. So change is happening very fast. See, there is a very famous saying by the old Greek philosopher, everything changes by change. It was said actually by Heraclitus, who lived even before Christ. So that is something happening even today, but only thing is it is more relevant today than it was probably during that time. So let us just look at what all changes we have been seeing. See, during my young adulthood, we were all used to video cassette. I don't know whether you guys have even seen a video cassette, but the video cassette was very popular then. Anybody coming in from Gulf were asked to bring in some video cassette. Sony, TDK, these were all common video cassette. But what happened to the business? I'm not talking about donkeys years ago. I'm talking about maybe 20 years ago. This was the scene. But video cassette has totally vanished from the face of the earth. Then came CDs. See, there was a company called Moser Baer. It was based out of Delhi. And that was the time when the world saw an explosion. World saw an explosion in the CD business. And Moser Baer was one of the largest CD manufacturers in the world. Actually, they were in the business of digital data storage. The company had more than 100 company had a presence in more than 100 countries. They serviced through 15 marketing offices, and they had a lot of representatives across the globe. They had tie-ups with other optical media storage manufacturers, and all these products were manufactured in their 3 factories in Delhi. And they used to employ 8,000 people. The company had subsidiaries that manufacture photovoltaic cells and crystalline silicon and thin film technology. The company was such a big company, but the company got liquidated, and it has been declared bankrupt in the year 2018. So this is something which happened very, very recently. You all can think and try to analyze what happened to this company, whether they could not see the writing on the wall, or whether the degree of obsolescence in the business they are operating was very fast, or whatever has happened, or whether it was mismanagement. Basically, because why I'm talking about it is basically because all the promoters were arrested and put behind bars and all that, because there was a lot of bank fraud and all that which was alleged. But whatever it is, the fact is their business model, maybe because they changed to adapt, they couldn't survive. Now, let me talk about another instance. See, when I was doing my MBA way back, and for many years later, sales and marketing was a hot topic. Everyone wanted to get into sales and marketing. But today, have you seen any salesman of Amazon? Any salesman of Flipkart? These are the largest retailers we are talking about. And what has happened? So the salesman has been replaced by technology. They have developed algorithm. They know what is your buying pattern. They know what are the items you are interested in. So they try to even prop up what all you are interested, the latest, the new product which has come into the market, like that. So the role of the salesman has been taken over by technology. So there also a disruption has happened, but it could happen only because of the improvement in technology which has come in. See, the desktop has been replaced. You all know the desktop has been replaced by a simple mobile. Today, a mobile or a tablet has 5,000 times more computing capacity than a desktop we had. And everything is available on your palm top. So basically, because of that, this 5,000 times more capacity technology is coming to your hands. You don't have to look elsewhere for technology. And this is bringing in so much of a change that even movie theaters are getting replaced by video streaming devices like Amazon Prime or Netflix. See, now what is happening because of this is tech companies are driving the growth. Most valuable companies are all tech companies. You name it, Apple, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Facebook. These are all world's most valuable companies, and these are all basically tech companies. And let us look back a little. In 2007, Microsoft was the only company among big 10 companies in the world. 10 years later, half of the top 10 companies are from the tech world. It's not that other companies are shrinking, but tech companies are growing in a much faster pace. Business today needs to move fast, not to gain advantage over their rivals, but also in a bit to survive. Tech companies are much quicker in adapting, in gaining the market share, controlling the cost, and making decisions due to their insistence on empowering staff to create and innovate every day. This is basically the difference between tech companies and the other companies. See, when we are talking about the pace of change, also understand, all of you must have heard of Fortune magazine, right? See, this Fortune is a magazine which brings out the list of Fortune 500 companies, like which are the biggest companies, 500 companies in the world. See, in 1950s, almost 90% of Fortune 500 companies, I'm talking today, all the 90% of Fortune 500 companies which were there in 1950s have been replaced. That is, only 10% of the company which was a Fortune 500 company in 50 is existing as a Fortune 500 company today. But more alarming is this has changed considerably since 2000, that only 50% of the companies which was a Fortune 500 company in 2000 is a Fortune 500 company today. What has happened to these companies? They have either merged, or some have even amalgamated, or some have even become insolvent. So disruption is happening in a much faster way now. See, even there's a guy called Dr. Richard Foster from the Yale University. He has come out with a study which says the average lifespan of a company listed in the Standard & Poor's 500 has decreased from 67 years in 1920s to 15 years today. Understand, the lifespan of a human is increasing, but the lifespan of a company is coming down. And this lifespan, if it is 15 years today, this can very well be 5 years or even shorter tomorrow. So let us look at what is happening in the ecosystem around us. Change is happening very fast. And it's not only change, but the velocity of change, the pace of change also has changed. Velocity of change today could be different from velocity of change even tomorrow, because it is happening at a much faster pace. But change is not only changing fast, but it is changing deeper, and it is changing wider also. See, Europe during Renaissance time, actually Europe could control the supremacy because fabric printing started there. And fabric printing was not available to the rest of the world, and Europe could retain this fabric printing technology as their monopoly for more than 120 years. But just look at how much time did it take for internet to come to the rest of the world from Europe? Less than 10 years. See, now if we look at everything across the world is changing. The way we travel, the way we eat, the way we sleep, the way we communicate, the way we socialize, everything has been disrupted. But understand one thing, one interesting thing I would say is, see this companies are not getting disrupted by their competitors in the same area of operation. Generally, their business model is getting disrupted by people outside the industry. Let us look around what is happening across various sectors. I would just like to take you through some sectors. When we talk about disruption, the best example would be the camera industry. Because nobody can talk about disruption without talking about the camera industry, because that is where it all happened. See, the camera industry had some giants like Nikon, Minolta, Canon, Konica. These are the four largest camera manufacturers, and they were all based out of Japan in 2001. See, today's largest camera manufacturers, or even camera manufacturers of maybe 2 years, 3 years before, none of them, like whether Nokia was a major mobile manufacturer, handset manufacturer, or even Samsung, in 2001, none of these companies used to make camera phones. Apple did not even used to make phones in 2001, because the first iPhone was released maybe around 2007 or something. Year 2001 saw the introduction of a camera phone in Japan by electronics giant called Sharp. They already was in the mobile phone business, so they introduced this camera phone. And it was a very wild curiosity that the biggest data operators, biggest mobile operators, the biggest carriers in Japan, like Docomo or even KDDI, said no to the idea because it's not going to click. There is no point in having a camera in a phone. So they didn't want to give data and all that. So basically it did not click with them. But a smallest carrier called J4, which later became SoftBank, they dared to explore this idea and they came out with one model. That is how it started. And it did not start 50 years back. I'm talking about something which happened just 19 years ago. World's first mobile phone camera came in just 19 years ago. And then the revolution started rolling. Soon Nokia, the biggest, Nokia, which was the biggest handset manufacturer, they started introducing camera phones. And within a few years later, the N series, Nokia came out with N series, their super camera phone they started. And until 5 years ago, Nokia was the largest manufacturer of camera. And they were selling more camera phones than all the standalone camera manufacturers in Japan as well as the rest of the world combined. Samsung was already heavily into the camera phones before Apple got into the act. And today, 3 most popular camera brands in the world, Samsung is number 1, Nokia, Apple. These are all numbers. Probably numbers can shift, but these were all the major major camera manufacturers. And Nikon, the world's largest standalone camera maker, does not even fit into the top 10 camera makers today. So while Nokia, Samsung, Apple disrupted the camera market and upended it, it's not that they only destroyed, but they even upended it. What happened to the camera giants? What happened to the camera giants? See, today, many of these companies which we talked about are not even existing. Minolta, it quit the camera business. Konica, it quit the camera business. Kodak, it went bankrupt. Polaroid went bankrupt. Not once, not twice, but 3 times. The remaining giants saw their standalone camera market shrink at a very fast rate. And Nikon, the largest manufacturer, as per a 2019 statement by their chief executive, is slowly getting dissolved. This is what happened in the camera business. Now, let us talk about some other area. Let us talk about travel. You all must have seen the latest Tamil movie based on Deccan Airlines, Sudarai Potru. See, talking about travel, the introduction of the low-cost model by Deccan Airlines disrupted the airline industry, thereby opening the airspace to the common man and helped him realize the dream of flight. But it is not limited to that alone. It also opened up a huge market for airplanes. And if you go through the business history, you will find that all these people, all the major airlines, were shopping for 100 aircrafts in an aircraft show. So India became a very large buyer of aircrafts. Deccan actually gave a rude shock to the mandarins of the industry. See, before Deccan came and before the low-cost model came, flying was not an easy thing. Even I remember queuing up before the Indian Airlines office in Bombay, trying to get a flight ticket, because only with contacts you could fly. Otherwise, the flights were all oversold. Now, let us look at the relating industry. Let us look at the airline ticketing. The online reservation has virtually broken the backbone of the travel agent business. All these people used to get 6%, 7% commission on a ticket sold. And today you can just log in. You can go to the site of ClearTrip, Make My Trip, Yatra, or whatever you name it. You can book a ticket by paying a very nominal amount, or you can even log into the site of the aircraft carrier itself and you can log in. So virtually the tour operator business had to reframe their business model, and they are getting into car rentals, hotel booking, tour organizing. So their business model had to change. So the technology enabled platform have rewritten the rules of business. Another thing which you all must be knowing is, let us look at Oyo, which was started by a 19-year-old guy, probably your age, 19-year-old guy, or maybe younger than you. It was another technology-enabled platform which succeeded.
I think there's some technical issue with sir. I'll just check with him once. Can you please wait? He'll be joining us soon.
Okay.
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Can we continue?
Yes, yes, sir. You can.
Ethan Charlie. Okay. I'm audible, right? Am I
Yes, sir.
audible?
You are. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Sorry.
No problems.
This is basically what will happen when you depend more on technology, you see.
No problems.
See, when we talk about Oyo, see, it was started by a 19-year-old boy. I would call him a boy. See, what exactly did Oyo do? They succeeded in bringing an identity to the middle class hotels by bringing them under one umbrella of the Oyo route. So a tourist outside who was coming into the city was guaranteed about certain minimum comfort because everybody knew what exactly was to expect from an Oyo room. So he could guarantee something so that everybody knew, okay, this Oyo means, okay, this much basically, whatever it is guaranteed. So this disrupted the way the middle class hotels were doing the business. This is basically what even Airbnb also did. See, Airbnb started from air mattress renting out. Basically, a guy in San Francisco found that it was very costly for a room rent to a rental room. So he thought, why not I rent my air mattress which was in the living room? That is why it came as Airbnb bed and breakfast. That is how the business model. So wherever you have an asset which was not productive, you had a living room which you are not going to use. So if you rent it out and make some money, so that was their business model, and it has actually exploded. And today Airbnb is a very, very successful entrepreneur. So this also happened by thinking out of the box. See, in US and Europe, there is another company called Priceline.com. wherein you can even bid for hotel rooms. See, like airline seats, even hotel room also is a perishable commodity. If you are not able to sell it, that much money is wasted. So if you have a hotel room which has not been sold because walk-in customers are slightly on the lower side, why not sell it at whatever rate you can get? And then they modified this to even bidding. Why not you allow people to bid? At least whatever rate you can get, that's a good thing for you, because otherwise the value is zero, because a room remained unsold yesterday has no value. So this is another thing. So basically what has happened is even 5-star or 4-star rooms, you can get it at very throwaway rates. Basically because somebody has an unsold inventory, they are trying to sell it. Let us look at eating. I'm talking about disruption which has happened across the globe, across various spheres. And when we are talking about eating, you all must be familiar with Zomato, Swiggy and all that, which basically has disrupted the way hotel business is being run. So today, hotelier also doesn't have to spend much unless you want to do a fine eating eatery. He can probably concentrate on the quality of food, which will give you a better rating, which will make people to log in and get your food, rather than spending money on the ambience and all that. Of course, ambience and all is required because then only people will walk in. That's a different thing. But that has actually changed the way eating also is done, because if you have a reasonably good quality food, people would log in and people would buy through Swiggy or Zomato or whatever these delivery platforms are there. So hotel also has to change to fine dining. Otherwise, it becomes difficult for them also to survive. And these models have redefined the way eating is carried out. And technology is there even in the mom and pop stores, even grocers, whether it is Big Basket, whether it is Jio, all these things are virtually destroyed or even disrupted the way business is being done. See, now let us look at communication, which is a major thing. See, Skype was the initiator in the way how things change across the communication spectrum. See, they initially changed the way people communicate across the globe by giving a jolt to international communication technology, telephony basically. See, in India also we have seen how Jio has rewritten the rules of the game. See, before Jio came in, Airtel was a global player with presence in many countries. They were a top service provider. And from 17-18, they saw their market share dipping, their profit dipping. And in 17-18 alone, Airtel profit dipped by 73%. In the year 2020, March 2020, Airtel posted a loss of 51,000 crores of rupees. This 51,000 crores, if you look at the balance sheet, you will know 41,000 is basically because of some extraordinary provision they have done. But even if you remove that, it is almost 11,000 crores. As against this, Jio posted an 87.65% rise in the standalone profit at rupees 5,500 crores, as compared to a 5,500 crores in March 2020, compared to 2,900 crores in financial year 19. Basically driven by continued subscriber additions and partial impact of a tariff hike with the impose. What did they do? Basically, they rewrote the rules of the game by making data as the key player rather than the voice call which Airtel was doing. And easier data packs gave a boost to the entertainment players also. It is not that Jio alone benefited. Jio understood that data was an underlying need, and Jio focused on data, and there were other companies like OTT platforms like Netflix or Amazon which had a piggyback ride, and the business started growing even for them. And I remember a statement by the Netflix CEO saying that he wants a disruptor like Jio in every market. Who doesn't want? Because with the high-speed internet connectivity, automatically this streaming devices, the streaming service has a good role to play, and they will actually gain market share. See, when we talk about Netflix or other OTT platforms, understand this was a market which was non-existent till a couple of years ago. And in 2019 itself, it is estimated to have a market of around 121 billion US dollars. Indian OTT market itself is expected to go up to $5 billion in 2023. And it all started basically by Netflix, who just reinvented the model of renting out DVDs. Just imagine, he was just renting out DVDs, and today where are they? They succeeded because they reinvented their business model. But even Jio is not the end. Jio also is likely to be disrupted. Recently, 2 days back or 1 week back, you must have read in the newspapers about Elon Musk, the SpaceX, which is going to bring in internet from space with Starlink, which will use satellites in the lower orbits for this task. They have even approached the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India. The advantage is it doesn't have to be expensive because they don't have to spend money on fiber for the last mile connectivity. See, basic cost in telephony is the last mile connectivity. The technical term they use is the last mile connectivity. Especially to serve the broadband to individual houses, the last mile connectivity cost is substantial. So the SpaceX, what do they plan to do? They plan to launch almost 12,000 satellites into the lower orbit. This is going to be a game changer. And the entire communication business, including the later entrant like Jio, have to look at other business models to survive. See, this has been happening everywhere. We know that socializing has changed. Earlier, there used to be a family outing wherein everybody used to get together at one place and used to chit-chat. Today, of course, people go out, but then everybody spends much time on their handset. So the TV serials were disrupted by socializing. And then WhatsApp came, now Instagram is there, and the way we socialize also has changed. So these are some disruptions we have seen. And these disruptions have benefited some, at the same time it has affected some in a very adverse manner. So I was talking about the disruption which happened across sectors like airline companies, travel agents, hoteliers, etc. But at the same time, it opened up new air traffic, it opened up huge market for aircrafts, it opened up a business platform for the middle-class hotel operator, bringing in transparency, transparency. It brought into the airline ticketing business, because earlier, if you know a good travel agent, he could ensure that you fly. Today, it becomes more difficult because number one, it's not required because the number of aircraft. It is more transparent. You can log in and see where exactly you stand. And you don't have to even go out because groceries come to your home. So the entire gamut has changed. See, coming to management, the management gurus have coined new words for accommodating these changes. They call it digital disruption and disruptive innovation. Let us for a minute look at what exactly these things mean. See, this digital disruption means it involves two things. One is disruption. What exactly is a disruption? Disruption means it's a threat to your personal or a business goal in a short or long term. And it has to be, of course, digital. Digital means, it has something to do with the Internet of Things or mobile app or technology or something related to the digital evolution. Coming to disruptive innovation, it was coined by Christiansen, a Harvard professor. And it means an innovation that creates a new market, which eventually disrupts an existing market. It is the process by which the technology enables new entrants to provide goods and services that are less expensive and more accessible, and eventually replace or disrupt well-established competitors. See, these are all technology, these are all slightly complicated terminologies. Let us not get into that. Let us understand the basic thing. The basic thing is disruption is happening and it's a reality. And it is happening very fast. It's a challenge not only to the existing business, but even for the policymakers. See, there is a statement that India, you all know that is a big IT exporter. But the fact is, when IT started getting exporting from India, the government of India did not have a clue because there was no physical export happening. So the knowledge of government in all these things is very, very limited. Let us look at what happened to this blockchain and Bitcoins. The valuations are changing by thousands of dollars every hour. But the policymakers have absolutely no clue as to what is happening. But it's not happening only in India. Some time back, there was a paper reports about the Facebook. US Congress wanted to control Facebook. They wanted to pull them up. But finally, they could not do anything because many people did not even understand what disruption is happening. So this is basically beyond the comprehension of the policymaker. That is exactly what I wanted to tell you. The policymakers are not equipped to evaluate the software or algorithms in the software and decide whether the claim of whatever they are claiming to deliver, whether it is actually getting delivered. So these are the changes basically which has happened. Now let us look at what can happen in the future. It's basically possible. It is not that it's not going to happen. See, today you want a juice, you just go to the shop and buy a packet of canned juice, whether it is apple or orange or whatever it is. Future is going to be slightly different. There is going to be an ingredient list, and the shop also will be able to make a custom drink for you. An orange drink, for example, you want an orange. You can order what percentage of sodium and potassium or sugar or without sugar you want in a drink. Because if you want to buy for your family, the family can have your grandfather, grandmother, some may have sodium issue, potassium issue, some may be diabetic, some may not be diabetic, some may be more health conscious. So you can actually go to your shop and buy whatever permutation combination you want, a simple thing like a drink to be bought. So virtually you can have a custom made juice for every requirement. Let us look at the biological ecosystem. Even the medicines are going to be customized. There will be a genetic mapping and you will have a card like a credit card. Doctor will not ask your family history. They will simply put in the card which shows your DNA profile, which will also show whether you have a gene causing a particular disease like arthritis or whatever it is, and give you a medicine based on nanotechnology, which will attack the gene which is causing you trouble. So that is how technology is going to overtake even medicine, or even the simple drink which you are going to juice, which we are going to order from a shop. So technology, in short, is shaking up everything, and it is shaking up even the way we breathe and sleep. It is throwing up opportunities, no doubt, but it is shaking up a lot of existing business also. So you have to continuously adapt and evolve to make these challenges, to meet these challenges. The mantra is disrupt or be disrupted. Now let us look at some changes, what are some of the challenges which are happening now, that is post-COVID. See, when you write business history sometime later, BC and AD is going to be there, but BC will be before COVID and AD will be like Anno Domini, it will be the after COVID or after the death of COVID or whatever it is. In business history, BC and AD will have a different meaning altogether. Some of the things you yourself know. COVID has rewritten the entire business model. Work from home has become a reality. This has adversely affected the commercial rentals. Surprisingly, it has increased the productivity in many of the IT companies, because even the commuting time, people are asked to log in. So you are logged in for a longer time. It's also going to affect the compensation package, basically because you don't have to pay Bangalore rentals to Calicut. and you don't commute that much distance, so even the vehicle allowance also is likely to come down. City allowance also one doesn't have to pay. So basically the companies are going to benefit by lesser expense on the employee and better productivity. This is going to be a reality. The salary levels also will be low. Likewise, changes are going to happen across. So what I am trying to tell you is change is happening very fast. We have seen the changes which happened and how the OTT platforms have grown. But OTT platforms again have grown at the cost of the theater owner. While OTT fellow is running to the bank to make money, probably the vehicle owner is running to reschedule his loans. So it is affected. And even this online classes, that also has affected the business of many people. Like everything is technology based. So basically the simple notebook sellers have started losing money. We as a caustic soda manufacturer make caustic soda, sell it to paper industry. Basically they make writing and printing paper, but we understand many of the writing and printing industry itself is down because the demand for notebook has come down. So again, it is going to affect everybody in a different way. Travel virtually stopped. Hotel industry has to look for additional support from the government. Airlines are bleeding. So a lot of things have started happening even post-COVID. So in short, it's almost time, I will just conclude. In short, we have to disrupt and reinvent. But understand one thing. Simply taking an existing product and putting it in the e-commerce platform or digitizing a customer experience is not digital reinvention. Reinvention is a rethinking of the business itself. Like I talked about Netflix, which reinvented their business model. So in short, we have to continuously innovate or perish, reinvent or perish. Be prepared to face the uncertain. Expect the unexpected. That is the only way to survive, and that should be the new mantra. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. We can take up the question answer session now. So if you have any questions, please shoot.
Good morning, sir.
Morning.
Yeah, thank you for the session, sir. You've talked a lot about changes and am I audible, sir?
Yeah.
Okay. So you've extensively talked about changes and innovation in a company to keep growing. Is there? I just wanted to know if there is any kind of possibility, or if there is any such company or industry where changes are not required, where things can even go smoothly without as they are going right now. Is there any possibility of such industry?
See, probably some companies, like my company, for example, we may not be able to change the process, but then what is required? We can even go for later technology so that the cost of production comes down. We can talk about delivering the product in a better way. So changes are possible. It need not necessarily be in the product itself or a commodity product. See, for example, the product I make is same as somebody else makes. There is absolutely no product differentiation in a commodity chemical. But at the same time, there can be changes brought in other parameters, which is required. So, for example, if I am giving, let me put it, if I am giving it X factory, somebody sells on a delivered basis, or somebody gives a value addition to the product, it's all possible. There is nothing which can go on in the exactly similar way what is being done. It's not possible.
Okay. So changes are at a point required at some or the other place, right, sir?
Absolutely.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Yeah. Hi. Good morning, sir.
Mani?
That was a good session that you have delivered. Thank you for that, first of all. And I was interested at one term that you have used, that is reinvention. Yes, like when we see to the market, to the corporate world, we see that the reinvention is the best thing that is happening, and that is the most important thing that should happen. Yes, right. But as you know, we are all MBA students, and we are all going to be in the market or into the corporate world once. So, what do you think what kind of change do you think will have a better management studies or make the management studies better in an educational level? So, what kind of additional things or what kind of changes do you suggest for educational
You are talking.
institutions?
See, basically, what has happened is, what does an MBA course teach you? It teaches you the basics, right? So, why should somebody recruit an MBA? It is only because you are supposed to know the academic part. You are supposed to know the theory in a better way, so that the industry will be able to absorb you. But once you are there, you have to use the knowledge to the betterment of, number one, you, so that at least you become a successful corporate person, and the office also will be able to extract value from you. So course will teach you only the basic thing. How you develop from that, how you apply whatever you have learned in a real life scenario is going to be different. What I am trying to tell you is, for the courses to develop more value, you should have more interaction with the industry. You should have more interaction on what is happening outside. You should be exposed. You should read journals. You should read financial dailies. You should try to understand what exactly is happening outside. Then only you will be able to learn. Otherwise, you learn something based on some textbook written by somebody maybe 10 years ago, 15 years ago. That will not take you anywhere. So the interaction of the academia with the industry has to be more, so that you evolve as a better corporate person, and so that you will be able to start delivering immediately after you join the corporate. Then there will not be any value gap.
Right, sir. Right, sir. That was so clear. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. Good morning, sir. First of all, sir, thank you for such a great session. Sir, my question is, sir, when we reinvent a business, sir, the entrepreneur or the head top tier people, they should focus more on the needs of the customer or more on restructuring the people, that is the employees, in a different manner when it's reinventing the business, sir. Which do you think, sir, is more should be given more priority?
I didn't get you.
Like, sir, you said that at one point or the other we will have to restructure, reinvent the business, like, because change is inevitable. So, sir, when a business is being reinvented, the top tier management or the entrepreneur head or the entrepreneur, he or she should focus more on the changing customer needs, market needs, or he should focus more about restructuring his employees, that is the company. Like, which should be given more importance, or should both be kept in mind, or like?
See, it has to be done by the company as such. It cannot be done only by a lower level employee. It has to be basically the organization vision itself has to be on reinvention. The organization also should understand that it is necessary to reinvent. If your boss doesn't understand, probably people lower down also has to take it up with the bosses and tell them, okay, this is the way things are shaping up. We have to reinvent the business. Then only it will come, because then it will be driven by the corporate as such. It cannot be driven only by one person. It has to be a corporate goal. The organization has to decide, okay, we have to Instead of going through the beaten path, we have to take this path. That is how it has to happen.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Sir, Revati here. Thank you for this wonderful session, first of all. So my question is, whenever you try to reinvent the business, there is always competition in the market, right? So when we come up with a new innovative way, it takes only a very little time for the competitions to copy that. And even they can do it in a better way and bring a new business model way better than us. So how do you think we can cope up with that competition in the market?
See, competition is something which you cannot rule out. It is going to be a reality. See, we talked about many examples and every one of these cases had a competitor. We talked about OTT models, Netflix competition is there in Amazon, and hundreds of Indian versions are going to come. So it is there in everywhere. Only thing is, whoever succeeds in giving a better value to the customer succeeds. You cannot otherwise make a USP or something so that at least your product stands out from the rest. Otherwise, Amazon and Flipkart, what do? Basically, they operate in the same sphere. Competition is bound to be there. So one has to decide what is the value they are going to deliver to the customer, and customer benefits from which model. So if you think about getting into an area with no competition, just forget about it. It's not going to sustain for long. It is just not going to happen. Which area doesn't have competition? Every area has competition, and competition is bound to increase. And it is not necessarily that it has to happen from the same thing. That is what I was trying to tell you. Competition can come across spectrum. That's what I was telling you about the camera industry. Competition did not come from a camera person. It came from somewhere else. It came from a mobile set operator. So it can come from anywhere. You will have to bear the jolt otherwise. You have to be basically prepared to face competition. See, you want to go from Calicut to, let us say you want to Calicut to travel to Cochin. There is you have hundreds of opportunities, hundreds of various methods by which you can travel. You can take a flight, you can cycle, you can take a car, you can take a bus. If the idea is to reach only from point A to point B, the methods available are plenty. So the competition is not between two bus operators. Competition is not between two train operators. Competition is between all the methods of travel. So competition is not only among the bus operators. So that is there something which is real. So you have to be ready for competition.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Do
Good
we
morning,
have
sir.
any more questions?
Yeah, good morning, sir.
Morning.
Avinash this side. Sir, one question. One general question, sir. There are KG students, or we can say nursery students, who are also forced to do this online classes, who are just starting up their classes, means their education, we can say. So how they will manage, because they won't be sitting for even half an hour, even 15 minutes in front of the laptop or your tablet. So what is the way out for them, to the students up to class 6 or 7? How they will manage? Means, is there any business plan for that?
See, basically, if you ask me, these younger students are more familiar with all these gadgets than even you.
True.
They know how to handle all these things. So for them, it is more of a play. It is not that if you don't make them feel that they are actually sitting to study, they have no problem. It all depends on how you keep them engaged, how you engage the students. It is not that they sit on the laptop with the laptop for 8 hours. No, they are actually kept engaged only for a short time. That again is done only to ensure that they don't lose touch with the studies. And it is going to be a very, very temporary phenomenon now. But in future, They will also have to graduate from slate, from notebook, from pencil to pen and all that. They will also be system driven. That is going to happen. So basically, if you see, how do you make studies interesting? You tell me. You're all students. It is not, you are also asked to sit with a big management textbook and asked to go through it for 8 hours. You will also find it boring. For
Yes,
children,
yes.
attention span is very limited. So you will have to keep them engaged. So it is only a short time. Slowly the children will get adapted and they will also know how to keep the camera off and do whatever they need. Like you are all doing. It's all possible, you see. It's not a difficult thing.
True, true. So with this, I can deliver my vote of thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Hi everyone. Good afternoon, ma'am and sir. At the outset, on behalf of NITC family, I would like to extend my sincere gratitude to our honorable chief guest, Shri K. Harikumar sir, to grace the event, and a special thanks to Miss Sunita Nair ma'am. Sir, you have spared your precious time from your busy schedule for sharing your inspiring, for sharing us some of the inspiring and encouraging thoughts for today's topic. In this regard, you have highlighted some of the key aspects in the present world, like how emergence of technology has disrupted the business in a good way, and at the same time, it has also some of the adverse effects to the existing industries. So, as you can see, that technology emergence will foster further. This event has immensely helped, will definitely help our students in the near future. In this context, at last, I would extend my sincere thanks to esteemed faculties, to my dear friends, my beloved seniors and volunteers who have turned up for the event. Once again, thank you all. And at the end, I will say I am hopeful for future association with you, sir. Thanks.
Now, whatever feedback you have, you can give it to Rekha and she can probably mail it to me. Okay.
Sure, so I will do that.
Okay, sir. Okay.
So thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And it was
Thank you,
a-
sir.